After 7 years, it's finally here, the Wynncraft FRUMA expansion, and it's here to solve 5 problems that have been building up for years. Firstly, Wynncraft's storyline has been stagnant. Endgame players have been starving for a new challenge. The level cap hasn't changed for 7 years. Horses have been so useless that movement spells are literally faster. And the worst one, the map has had a big gap in it forever. Okay, maybe that's not a big deal, but I also think I found 5 new problems it's created. So, is the FRUMA expansion actually worth playing? Firstly, there's the new province of FRUMA. It's split into 5 unique regions. The Auburn Forest is the first one you'll see, a dense autumn forest and the city of Esprin. There's also a swamp as well as the Wellspring of Eternity and the Shima Valley. Then there's the Industrial District, or the Rough Works, and the city of Temasca, a smog-covered and factory-filled cityscape. The Mistwoods and the city of Aldwell bring a dark and eerie atmosphere, a beautiful but danger-packed forest. Next, the Highlands, the region of the nobles, cherry blossoms and castles all over. And at the center of it all, a Lumia Citadel, the Queen's capital. The Citadel is unlike any other city in Wynncraft. It's not a safe zone. It's a hostile megastructure filled with enemies, layered walls, and dangers at every turn. You fight your way through a maze of buildings to reach a safe haven, and beyond that lies the Queen's Palace. There's also a 6th region, the Wastelands, coming in a separate update later. Now, how do you actually get into FRUMA? Well, you'll need to complete 2 new quests, Queen's Recruit and a Journey Home, and after that you'll be able to freely explore. FRUMA might be small, but it feels large because of how densely packed it is with things to explore. And just look at this cool graffiti. Wait, does that say use code Linus on the store for 5% off and to support the channel? Well, anyway. The main storyline spans 13 parts and continues the Realm of Light and Silent Expanse story. It's Wynncraft's most ambitious storyline yet, and it shows. Without spoiling too much, you're teaming up with a resistance group called the Leaves in the Wind to take on the Queen and her sovereigns. What really sets the storyline apart is the characters. You bond with them over the course of the story. You relate to Sui's quiet insecurity about her powers. You'll need time to warm up to Rex's bluntness, while Seth likes you from the start just for being cool. But it's not just your allies that are unique. Take like Cyriac, who speaks only in math puns for example, or Majin, who's a totally self-obsessed yapper. You heard my name, but let me introduce myself. I am Majin, House of Dallas, the Morning Star, Sovereign of our fair highlands. These are characters that you actually care about. And the quest bosses, they're tough. It's like fighting a dungeon boss or a raid boss completely solo. You will not get away with a bad build. FRUMA is designed for the endgame, and it shows. But here's the thing, the quests are long. My advice is don't rush it. Take your time and explore between the quests. And let's not forget that the old chat-based dialogue is gone. It's been replaced by a clean text box system in the center of the screen. And the best part is, this applies to all quests in the game, not just FRUMA. But FRUMA quests also feature character portraits, which add even more depth to the story. But let me just say, the FRUMA questline is an emotional roller coaster. It will take you through the whole province, region by region, as you plot against the Queen, but you'll get to see the people of FRUMA's perception of what they thought was the perfect province shatter piece by piece. Beyond the main story, there are several side quests and other content that further develop FRUMA. And let me say, Wynncraft did not sleep on these side quests. You go from infiltrating the big dam of FRUMA to restore water to the people of Auburn, to a full-on murder mystery whodunit on a moving train. We're moving! Let's go! Whoa! Oh, this is so freaky. or even chasing a thieving raccoon through the Fruma sewer system. And the puzzles you'll find are tricky. There's everything from a crossword puzzle to Tetris and a tricky Hanoi Tower style puzzle with liquids. And between the quests, you'll find caves, discoveries, and world events scattered everywhere. There's a ton of lore to uncover, hidden places to explore, and details tucked into every corner. The mobs themselves are almost all custom modeled following the rekindled update, and they're tough. Even regular fodder enemies put up a fight, and the patrolling guards especially add so much to the immersiveness of the Queen's reign. There's also new mini quests to find and new higher level profession materials, but honestly, the prof spots leave a lot to be desired. Few and far apart nodes, and usually quite many enemies around. And the level cap itself goes from 105 to 120, but be warned, leveling takes a while. Fruma has 3 main leveling spots, and 2 of them are gonna give you more pain than XP. There's a cave in the Auburn Forest, which is quite good, but at the higher levels it will slow down quite a bit. Then there's a castle basement and a lighthouse in the capital, but both of these spots have bosses in them that will make leveling near unusable. So yeah, don't waste your time dying repeatedly. Stay in the Auburn Cave or even the Lutho Church, but it will be a grind. Just 105 to 120 with XP armor took around 6 hours. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Fruma also adds a new endgame raid, the Wartorn Palace, and it is by far the hardest and coolest raid in Wynncraft, and you'll need to complete the full main storyline first, but only once per account. You must complete 3 challenge rooms before you reach the boss. In one room, you're fighting through hallways, choosing challenges and taking on waves of enemies. But to be efficient, you might have to split up. In another, one player has to break the glass ceiling to focus a beam of light onto enemies, while the rest of the team clump together mobs by killing a mini-boss. There's a platform room where one player stands on a platform dodging spikes to weaken a mini-boss's shield so the rest of the team can actually damage it. But the standout room is the anchor room, because this is where the raid transports you to the realm of war, a terrifying hellscape with a custom skybox, and if you look in the background, you'll even spot wild annihilations just walking around out there. It looks absolutely insane. Here, one player wields an artifact and has to use it to destroy anchors. However, the rest of the team must break the hardened shells to expose the anchors and fight off a mini-boss so the artifact can be used. Quick note though, the custom skybox is incompatible with shaders, so it turns the entire sky green if you're using them. It kinda sucks, but luckily the custom skybox stuff is limited to just the raid and one storyline quest. The buff rooms between the challenges have new raid buffs, but there is a catch. The third room only gives you negative buffs, and you're forced to pick one. And then the boss room. You reach it by bouncing to the top of the spire. Yo, I'm so excited! Epic pose! One of the best cutscenes ever. Kabow! Let's go! Let's go! Oh man. The opening cinematic is peak, and the fight itself, it's the toughest encounter in all of Wynncraft hands down. She has over 90 million health, the arena is full of chaos, explosives, massive saws cutting through the platform, projectiles, shockwaves, and a nuke that covers the entire arena unless you destroy it in time. There is so much going on. I beat it on my 2nd attempt, and it was one of the most intense fights ever. Let's go! Oh man! You will struggle, but it is an awesome fight, and when you finally beat it, it feels amazing. Combat has gotten a massive overhaul in two key ways. Firstly, spell VFX. Every spell now has actual visual effects instead of just particles, and it looks so good. It can get chaotic with many players around, but overall it makes combat way easier to read and more satisfying. Secondly, there's ultimate abilities. Every archetype gets its own game-changing mega attack that charges up during combat. Fallen gets Beyond Salvation. Corruption spikes erupt around you and detonate for area damage and for overhealth. Paladin gets Judgment, a giant holy sword that slams into the ground, dealing damage and buffing all allies. And Battle Monk gets Zenith Stance, summoning two enormous spirit hands that deal melee or spell damage. Sharpshooter gets Twilight Zone, a focus state where you mark enemies in your line of sight and fire powerful arrows. Bolt Slinger gets Ascension, entering an angelic state that empowers all your spells and give your guardian angels infinite ammo. And Trapper gets Extinction Zone, where you place a flare that calls a flock of birds to carpet bomb the battlefield. Acrobat gets Serpent's Garden, slamming into the ground to create a flower garden that damages enemies and uncaps your momentum. Shadestepper gets Pierce the Veil, a permanent vanish where you can attack and regenerate health and mana. And Trickster gets Another Self, creating a mirror clone that independently seeks out enemies and repeats your spells. Ritualist gets Sundered Skies, which grows your totem and summons a massive thunderstorm that smites everything in its reach. Acolyte gets Monument to Gloom, that transforms your totem into a blood demon statue that acts as a battery, which gives you and allies either blood pool or health. And Summoner gets Patchwork Abomination, a powerful new summon with both ranged and melee attacks. Lightbender gets Dawn, which summons a literal sun above you that sends wisps out that damage enemies and heal allies. Riftwalker gets Gravitational Collapse, where your rift overloads, pulls enemies in, and gives you flight with no mana drain. And Arcanist gets Tangled Origin, two elemental dragons, one lightning and one fire, that combines for devastating attacks. Some of these are more flashy than others. Lightbender's Massive Sun and Paladin's Giant Sword are my personal favorites, but they all enhance their archetype and add a layer of strategy that was missing before. There's also an entire 8th page added to the ability tree and a bunch of new and changed abilities. Riftwalker has also gotten a complete rework. There's new abilities like summoning a dimensional tear, raining down a meteor shower, or sending ice tornadoes toward your enemies. Riftwalker finally feels like its own archetype and not just something you borrow abilities from for some extra damage. And of course, there's also new aspects to get from raids. Mounts might be one of the best parts of the entire update. There are now 3 types of mounts: horses for raw speed, adversars for climbing steep terrain, and wyverns for full-on flying. And flying through the skies on a wyvern, it's just amazing. It's everything you could have ever wanted. So here's how it all works. Mounts are level and quest locked, and each type lives in its own enclosure. At level 10, you can grab a horse in Ternaves. At level 84, you unlock wyverns at the Bantizu Temple. And at level 115, you can find adversars in Aldwell. When you get a mount, you connect it to a feeder at the enclosure, which gives you a whistle to summon it, and then you can just ride it. And to level up your mount, you just use it and pick up randomly spawning buffs. Mounts have 8 new stats: speed, acceleration, handling, altitude, energy, toughness, training, and power up. And each stat has 3 numbers: the level, which is what the stat is currently, the limit, which is the wall you can't get your level past, and the max, which is the highest that the limit can go on this mount. And to push further, you need to feed your mount profession materials through the feeder to raise raise the limit toward the max, and different materials train different stats. The mounts eat them over several hours, so you can just leave them in the feeder and go do something else. Feeding also restores the mount's energy. Once you've raised the limit all the way to the max, that's when breeding comes in. You can combine two improved mounts together. One gets consumed and the result is a improved mount with a higher max stat. And then you start the loop again. Now, it sounds like a lot, and it is. But here's the thing, you don't need a perfect mount for it to be good. The gain tapers off quite fast. Going from level 1 to 100 is a massive jump, but going from 100 to 1000, it's not as noticeable. And if you really don't want to do the grind, you can just buy one from the trade market because mounts are still tradable. FRUMA also adds 2 new loot run camps and a new inspect menu to track your stats mid loot run. There's also a new pink beacon for beacon rerolls and a new radiant curse that makes mobs even stronger. As for items, there are 10 new mythics. For example, there's Riptide that makes psychokinesis meteors bounce. It's a great Arcanist themed weapon. And beyond that, there's over 1,000 new items. But the biggest item addition is the new Upgrader NPC and the item Ascension system. And it's more than just a stat boost. You use wards that you get from endgame activities like raids and loot runs. And you can even sacrifice a second of the same mythic to upgrade your existing mythics. Okay, come on. Come on, we can do this. Let's go! And upgraded mythics don't just get higher stats and a higher level, they can gain entirely new stats and some even new major IDs. And let's not forget that the item tooltips have been completely overhauled and it looks amazing. And they have built-in roll quality indicators. Powders can also be applied directly to your weapon, and there's been several rebuilt locations over in the Wynn province. So, is the FRUMA expansion actually worth playing? Well, remember those 5 problems? FRUMA delivers. The storyline is back with a 13-part storyline that's the best story Wynncraft has ever told. The endgame finally has real teeth. The raid alone will humble you. 50 new levels means players actually have something to work toward again. Mounts have gone from useless to one of the best features in the game. And the map, well, it's finally a full rectangle. Well, what about the new problems? Leveling is slow and the quests won't take you all the way to the max level. The update is almost exclusively endgame, so newer players will have to play the entire game before they can even see FRUMA. And the challenges, they're tough. The raid, the quest bosses, even the regular enemies are tanky. You'll need a solid build, you'll have to retry some fights, and you'll need to play smart. And getting a top tier mount is a grind. It's time consuming, time gated, and requires profession materials. And the quests themselves are long, so playing through the entire storyline and side quests is a serious time commitment. So, is FRUMA worth it? Yes, absolutely yes. Even with the rough edges, it's an incredible update. 30 plus hours of beautifully crafted content, the best story in the game, combat that finally feels powerful with the new VFX in the ultimates, an amazing raid, and mounts that change how you experience the entire world. The quests are long, but that's because the story earns it. The fights are tough because they're designed to be. For endgame players, this is everything you've been waiting for. And for everyone else, well, it's something to really look forward to. And that's the FRUMA expansion. I'll see you in FRUMA. Subscribes!